Today I'm meeting a scientist who researches soil health in our environment. But she's also got a passion for helping home gardeners understand their soil and therefore understand their gardens. I'm visiting Emily Layden at her home in Adelaide's inner north.
Soil is one of the most underrated and little understood ecosystems on our planet. If you think about it, it helps feed us, it helps clothe us, it filters and cleans our water and regulates our atmosphere. It really is a truly wondrous material.
Gardeners generally put most of their time and energy into soil improvement in the veggie patch. I know I certainly have, and I actually brought some of my soil along to see what you think.
Wow, so this is a really amazing soil. It's light and it's fluffy, and that means we'll be able to have good air exchange with the roots. Water will be able to get into the soil, but also drain away. And you've obviously put a lot of organic matter into this over the years.
I certainly have. So I guess gardeners have to remember that soil improvement is an ongoing process.
Absolutely, it's not a once-off thing. So after every crop, you really want to be thinking about improving your soil with things like compost and manures and cover crops.
So you're obviously a keen gardener.
Yes.
How important is it to understand soil to develop a good garden?
Well, understanding your soil texture and your soil type is really important because it's going to determine what plants work best in your garden. And it can also help you understand how you can improve your soil to get the best out of those plants. So when you want to look at the soil in your garden, you really want to dig deep below the topsoil, so about 30 or 40 centimetres deep.
There are a couple of simple tests that you can do in your garden that don't require any kits, lab equipment or tools. The first is to figure out what type of soil you have with a simple soil texture test. So what is soil texture?
Well, when you're looking at your soil texture in your garden, you want to determine whether you've got a sandy soil or a clay soil, or in the middle is your loams.
And how do you tell if you've got sand or clay?
Well, really simply, you just grab some of your soil into your hands. So here I've got a sandy soil, and just add some water. And as you're doing that, you're wanting to look at how that soil is coming together. As you can see here with my sand, it's taking a while to form into a ball. It is hanging together a little bit, but you can see how it's falling apart really easily. And that gives us an indication that we have a sandy soil.
So coarse particles.
Coarse particles. And so if we have this in our garden, the things we need to be aware of is that when you put water on, it's going to drain really easily. There's not much clay in here that holds on to things like nutrients or water.
Okay. So do you do the same with other sorts of soil?
Absolutely. So here I've got some soil from my garden. So this would be classified as a loam, and loams have equal quantities of sand, silt and clay.
And you just keep working it?
Keep working it till you've got a nice ball that's not too wet and not too dry, just right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to make it into a ribbon. And I do that by just rubbing it in my hands. You can see it is still holding together, but it does shear apart. You can see there. That means it's got some clay, but not too much. But it's also got sand, which is helping it break apart, and also your silt. And so this is a good balance of all those three different types of soil particles, sand, silt and clay.
That's loam.
And then we classify that as a loam.
Okay, now what would happen if we did the same test with clay?
With clay. Okay, so I've got a clay here, and this is a clay actually from McLaren Vale, a wine growing region in South Australia. So I'll do the same thing, and then start to add your water like we did with the other two. Clay is notorious for feeling like plasticine in your hand as you work it. So what we do now, we've got a moist bit of soil and we start to roll it out. And you'll see, because this is a clay, we're not breaking apart very easily.
So that's obviously clay.
That's right. Yeah, because
Okay.
we've made to make a really long sausage.
So once we know our soil texture, what comes next?
Well, no matter if you have a clay soil or a sandy soil, it's very difficult to change that texture. But what you can work on as a home gardener is increasing your soil structure. And we do that through organic matter.
So organic matter is compost or aged animal manure?
Yeah, exactly. So what organic matter does is in a sandy soil, it can help bring together those sand particles a bit like a glue and helps form those groups. And that's what we want in a soil.
So is there a challenge with putting organic matter into sandy soils?
Yeah, there is. You have to be a bit careful because organic matter can form a coating on the sand that can repel water. We can overcome that with an organic-based wetting agent. And also you can add some kaolin or bentonite clay, can also help in this situation.
The next test is to find out if your soil is dispersive.
So you can see here we've got a non-dispersive, a moderately and a highly dispersive soil. And we tell that by the cloud that's formed around each one.
Cover your samples in some distilled water and leave them to sit for an hour.
So in a highly dispersive soil, what we've got is excess sodium. When we put water on that has salt in it, especially sodium salt, the water goes through the soil, but the sodium hangs about on those soil particles. And what it can do is it pushes apart the clay particles and creates waterlogging and crusting problems.
Okay, so in cases where the soil is dispersive, that's where you can use gypsum and it's effective.
Gypsum is calcium, and calcium replaces the sodium on the soil particles, allowing it to leach away. And that can increase your soil structure.
So learning about your soil isn't just about improving it, is it?
Well, improving your soil with organic matter is always a good idea, but primarily what you want to do is plant for your soil type. So planting for sandy soils or planting for clay soils, and that gives you the best chance of success.
Understanding the soil in our backyards is really just the beginning. The way we manage land here and around the world has huge implications for our overall health.
We're destroying our soil at quite a high rate. It takes up to 1,000 years to build 10 centimetres of topsoil, and we don't have enough time to rebuild it. So it's really important we start to value and appreciate our soil resource. In fact, it's actually vital for our very survival.